Hello, my name is Michael, and welcome to another one of my videos on the Kundalini Awakening process. I've been studying this process and spiritual enlightenment paths for about 4 decades now, and I finally feel I am ready to share some of the information that I have learned. But again, I've taken my copious notes of this one. This one's actually a little bit different type of video. As you can see, I took the board away. I completely cleaned it out of the way. I moved the cameras around, all that kind of stuff. We'll see how it really plays out. This one is step 7. And like I said before, these steps, this is the last step on my list, but the steps can go in any order. You can actually do them simultaneously, and that's kind of how you want to do it. This step is excite your creation energy. Very similar to excite your sacral energy, right? Which are all they're next to each other. Except for the sacral energy is excited and built up via your microcosmic orbits and storing the energy when you're done. This one is you tap into the most powerful emotional energy you've ever had in your entire life and kick that throughout your body to give the Kundalini energy that last little push, the last little pop that's going to make it explode up your spine and go through the lightning path and go around and actually open up your chakras and things like that. Do you have to do this step? No. This step, you can do it all just with your sacral, right? And it'll take a little bit longer. You won't have that little extra pop, but if you build your sacral up enough, it won't matter. It will go pop anyway. I've known a lot of people who've done it this way. However, this last little kick just makes it go a little bit faster. And do you have to use emotions? In today's modern society, I say let's use emotions because you can do it in 90 days, less, maybe a little bit more. However, if you use no emotions, like your Buddhist monks who go off and just sit in a monastery for decades and decades. Yes, that works. You can do that. You can go sit in a monastery for decades and decades. And actually, I'm going to make a whole nother video, if I haven't made it already, about the other methods that you can choose to reach Kundalini. All of them have their pluses and minuses, and you can do it other ways. This is not the only method that I'm giving you. There are multiple ways to get there. This is more of maybe a Taoist because you're using multiple things from your environment and stuff to get there. Now, the secret smile. Those emotions might possibly be one of your strongest emotions, might be inside your secret smile emotions that you use from, I don't even remember which video was that anymore, but it's back there, the secret smile. We'll practice that. If it is, great, that's awesome for you. I know a lot of people, one of those emotions were, and a lot of times it's the love emotion, right? Sometimes it's their sex emotion, whatever. One of those emotions are the ones that they use. It wasn't for me. I discussed it briefly, just a minute in another video, that I used my own death experience from a past life. I know it sounds crazy, but I remember when I first touched that emotion, it had nothing to do with Kundalini. Actually, I was doing a lot of past life work and going through different past lives just because I was interested. And when I finally discovered that and touched that emotion, it was my own murder. I was aware I was being murdered, and there's nothing I could do about it. And that emotion was so strong. In fact, I'm getting a little bit of it right now. That emotion was so strong that I literally closed my eyes and couldn't open them. Tears streamed out of my face. I curled up in a ball for a day. Literally 24 hours, I could not move. It was such a strong emotion that it just froze me up and stuck me there. Now, eventually, of course, I've worked on it, and I actually use that emotion a lot of times before I do a lot of my work. Oh, look, I left all of my jewelry off for this last video. I guess I had to take my daughter riding around, and however that plays out. But my final emotion, or this emotion that gave my Kundalini that last bit of boom, and that was the one that did it for me, for a controlled Kundalini, a one that I initiated. My past Kundalini experiences, they were uninitiated, and it took me decades to even figure out what happened, right? They just happened. I'm like, why am I so weird? Why is my brain so wired from everybody else is different? Well, now I know why, because I've studied and sifted through countless issues to get there. The emotion that I had, it was multiple emotions. It was fear, regret, shame, loss, passion, love, forgiveness. All of these things were all rolled into one giant ball of an emotion. It wasn't just one emotion, it was multiple emotions. Now, will you have multiple emotions? We have one emotion? I don't know. Everyone is different. It's whatever that emotion is that is so strong, it's going to make you it's just going to explode it out, right? It's that emotion that's so uncontrollable. And whatever emotion you choose, just like my emotion, it flavored the Kundalini Awakening process itself, because we're all different, right? Our emotions are all different. Nobody's emotions, you got, I don't know how many billions of people on the planet, none of us have the exact same emotional makeup. None of us. Zero. We're all unique. Well, the Kundalini process is unique for every single person. Is it a process that every single person can do? Yes, but it has slightly different results. And a lot of times, which chakra you pick, like your third eye or your heart, or the two that I talked about in a different video, that will flavor your awakening process. It will flavor everything beyond the awakening process, because the process is a connection to all of your higher spiritual practices. Well, just for as an example, my emotional kick that flavored my process, it flavored my process. And it wasn't all happy, joy flavoring, right? I went through some weird dark nights of the soul. I became a death worker and a psychopomp. My ability to divine and see the future skyrocket. That's why I got all these weird, tarot decks and oracle decks over here, because my ability to see future just exploded and see other people's futures. My connections in with humanity, that whole cycle of life and death and rebirth just exploded and just increased 1,000-fold when I went through the Kundalini. And in fact, I remember when I did it, I was sitting down here at this desk, and I remember that night I was sitting in this blue chair about 2 years ago, and I ran that, I was like, I'll just run my death experience just because it's really cool, and then I'll do my Kundalini work. Well, gosh darn it, I cried for about 5 minutes in my death experience, ran the work, and bang, it exploded. It was literally the lightning bolt shot up my spine, blew whatever mess ups in my back I have from years of wearing bulletproof armor and stuff, chewed up my back. My shoulder blades nearly touched. I almost sat on this chair and went right out of this chair because I couldn't hold it. I just went boom, and my whole head, it felt like it exploded. Everything just blew out, and the lights in the room changed color. I was sitting in the dark, and then whoop, everything got lighter and changed everything. I was like, what happened? And then the next 3 months, my wife thought I was crazy. She came down that next morning. I said, I got to write this down. And I started writing and writing and writing. I wrote for 3 months straight. I went to work 80 hours a week. I came home, wrote for about 20 to 60 hours a week. I went through and did all kinds of meditative spiritual journeys, all in one big row. I think I got less than maybe 30 hours of sleep in 3 months. I was so overloaded, and information was just blowing out of me. And I just wrote it. And in fact, that's a book somewhere way down the line. I finally finished editing it because I have just tons of raw notes, 174 pages of raw notes on this thing that I'm slowly editing through, which is a lot of process if any of you edited stuff. So the experience will make you so different. You will change. You will be a different person. Even if you open your heart centers, you will be a much more loving person. But the same goes true, because after you open your original Kundalini, guess what you do? After you open that original chakra, well, all the other ones get opened a little bit, but then you go back and you start to go back and rebalance them all. You rebalance your heart. You rebalance the stuff that we talked about earlier about balancing and grounding, where you balance them at their new levels. You rebalance your solar plexus and your sacral and your sex organs and your root. And when you rebalance your root, you become connected so much more with the earth and with humanity itself, because we're all part of that root chakra. Doesn't end at your feet. Like I said, it's in the dirt, in the earth's crust is where we're connected in with that chakra. Just like the crown chakra. It's not that single point. That single point is almost like cut in half. You're partially connected outside of your body in that realm above your crown chakra. It is there, and it's just part of the process. Now, I see one more note on here that will end the video, and this is important, and I didn't say it in any of the other portions. Everybody, and I know spouses, partners, maybe even you will get ticked off at this one, but you need to not have sex for 90 days. Just abstain. Don't do it. If you're a guy and you've learned seminal retention, great. You're going to have to start practicing certain types of exercises for breath work and stuff, and that's another video. I'll go into actually doing the Taoist breath, which is actually a pump to pump your microcosmic orbit versus just running it around as a regular Buddha breath or whatever. And for girls, go get yoni eggs. There's a bunch of people out there who teach it. I know some people, if you ask me, I'll point you right to the right people. Go do some yoni egg practice for the girls and stuff like that. It's excellent work. Guys, it's like I said, there's other work you can do. There's massages and stuff you can do, and breath work you can do, and that's other videos that we'll go into. But like I said, this is actually important. No sex, because of the loss a lot of times of energy that way. You give out a lot of your creation energy, especially if you're losing parts, right? Now, girls are slightly different with the egg versus the other thing, and that's why I suggest the yoni egg practices and things like that to get through that. For guys, it's the actual stuff that comes out. So just abstain for 90 days. I'm so sorry, but that's what you got to do, and deal with the problems and stuff that come with that. That is really the end of this video. The last step is excite your creation energy. This energy that's going to give that Kundalini that little extra kick that's going to make it go just a little bit, open a little bit faster, just a little bit. And that piece could be the piece that you've been missing all these years if you've been practicing Kundalini work for 2 decades, right? Because there's different types of Kundalini practices, right? There's some people who get this lightning path and bang, it's done, right? That it happens almost overnight. Some people, they work on it for decades, and it takes them for a long time. Like, I had opened mine when I was 13, but I didn't realize it, and then I closed it. Well, then it took me a decade more to figure out how to reopen it, and that's what I'm sharing with you now, how to do it, reopen it, and how to get through all of these steps much, much faster than spending, half your life studying this, just so then when you're in your older years, you can figure out, oh, gee, now I can do all this cool stuff when I should have been able to do this in my 20s or 30s or 40s. And it doesn't matter how old you are. You can do this when you're 70s. I suggest you don't do it before puberty, but that's ultimately on you. I've known kids who've almost been born awakened. So it is what it is. Much love to all of you. Good luck on your practices. And once again, if you have any questions or comments or any whatever, please put them in the comments below. Like, subscribe, watch the other videos. I will be making more videos to go into a little bit more details on all of the things that we've discussed. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful evening. Good night.